You ever start working on your car and you're like, why the heck would they design something like that? Well, don't blame the engineers. I'm a mechanical engineer, and today let's discuss why. You see, engineers are problem solvers. They're not just there to design something to fit, form, and function. There's a lot more considerations that have to be taken into account when designing something to last a specific life cycle. The first, of course, is the budget. An engineer might design a valve cover that's steel for $12 and aluminum for $15 and take it to cost committee. Cost committee will come back and be like, nope, I need one for $5. The engineer is now forced to turn around and design one out of a composite material regardless of its long-term repercussion. The next of which is, of course, market considerations and the behaviors of customers. If most customers are only keeping their car for the first 3 or 4 years or so, and the warranty is about at 5 years, then that determines the life cycle of this part. Let's see if I'm designing this Hyundai water pump. We've got a steel flange on the outside, aluminum housing, and plastic impellers. You can see this one's already chipped off here. If my design target is 5 years plus 1 day, and most of these water pumps are lasting way past that, I've actually failed as an engineer. So let's say the thickness here was 4 millimeters when it could have been 3 millimeters. I've wasted time designing it. I've wasted resources testing it, manufacturing it, and materials that could have all been allocated somewhere else. Next, there's emissions requirements, which you guys can't really see much, and then there's fuel economy requirements, which a lot of customers are demanding nowadays. Now, direct injection has become commonplace over the last 2 decades or so, and that gives you better fuel economy and better emissions. However, of course, you do have extra components, including your pump, extra lines, more expensive injectors, and then of course there's the repercussions of carbon buildup. It's just one of the sad things that we'd had to come up with to meet those ever-changing emissions and economy requirements, even though we were doing perfectly fine with port injection before. Now, positive crankcase ventilation has been around for a long time, and that helps with emissions, but look at the complexity that Volkswagen's come up with for an oil air separator using centrifugal force to push the oil back down in there, separating it from the air that comes into the intake, hopefully not gumming it up. There's also stringent safety requirements. Now, a lot of customers are demanding safer vehicles, both in terms of collision avoidance in self-driving cars so they can stay on their cell phone all the time, but also crash safety. Say, for example, I'm the engineer designing this hood. Now, I could make a traditional one out of steel, I could go with a lightweight one out of aluminum, or I could look into a composite hood which will crumple a lot better to meet pedestrian safety requirements in low-speed collision. Speaking of the hood, a lot of vehicles have pyrotechnic hinges to pop the hood up when a victim's head hits it so it cushions the impact and they don't die right away. Next up, there's environmental concern. For example, a lot of you guys use EVs in the winter time, and you know that batteries need to be warm in order to operate or cool down in the summertime. Now that's where engineers have to come in and design a very complicated ducting or a dedicated cooling system in order to keep this thing intact. Next up, we've got political boundaries. Those are going to be things like tariffs or even materials and labor. This Volkswagen Taos engine is made in Mexico, but there's other components beside it that are not made there. Now that could simply be because it's cheaper to make it in one country, but it could also be because of material availability or the availability of finishes, for example, that might be banned in one country but allowed in other countries, and that would change the design. Now, as people who work on their vehicles, the next two here affect us a lot, and that's packaging and manufacturing requirements. Here we've got this beautiful Maserati V6 engine. If I had used an inline 6, it would take up more space under the hood, even though it's less complex. Now I've got more space in the front for crumple zones, again going back to crash safety. Now another one is putting timing chains on the back of the engine. They say it's better for acoustics and engine balance, and sure, they've done their calculations in doing that, but if you're going to do that, don't put these weak timing chain tensioners that are barely going to last warranty, because sure, the customer is going to be paying for the job, but it's just going to make it a heck of a lot easier to not pull the transmission out just to do a simple timing job. It's just one of my pet peeves, having taken apart a few of these engines, and of course some of you guys out there who run Audis. Now, you always got to make your parts easy to manufacture on the assembly line first, because who cares about repair later down the road if you're not paying for it? Let's face it, 2 seconds in the eyes of an OEM manufacturer is a lot when you multiply by 5 million cars. Case in point, in order to replace the water pump on one of these 3.5 Toyota engines, step 1 is to remove the engine. And no kidding, that's the water pump right up against the frame rail inside of here, and there's no way they're going to make the vehicle any wider just so you can access that. Now, there are techniques in order to lift the engine up in order to get in there, but it's super tight. But they haven't thought about it because they're not the ones paying for it. So even though water pumps outlast the warranty on these, they still are an issue as the vehicle ages, and honestly they haven't really fixed this issue. Next up, we've got design envelope. Now as engineers, we kind of split up into different groups and we don't really talk to each other. So the same guy might be designing the direct injection pump as the guy designing the fuel rail, even though it's part of the same exact system. The only thing is you've been given an envelope where this has to be and this has to be, and design within that parameter. Take this Genesis turbocharger for example. Now most of this stuff is already contracted out to tier 1 suppliers. This one comes from Honeywell, and as an engineer all you'd have is just your hard points, your airflow and coolant requirements, and there's not really much you could play with and actually design. So as you can see from the vibe here, automakers are in the business of making money. They want to put a new car in your driveway every couple of years, and engineers are not there to make parts break after certain years to make that happen. We're simply trying to satisfy all of these requirements in one to make a part or a subsystem. Now, so what happens after sales in terms of warranty parts that keep coming back? Well, all of those losses are actually pre-calculated. So for example, if I'm targeting a 1% warranty, $1 million is fine if I'm still making 100 million. Instead of reinvesting that back into engineers to make a better part, I just calculate that as a business decision, as a loss, and move forward with the rest of the money. Now, at the end of the day, reliability and repairs don't matter much to the automaker. Think about it for the customer who's walking in with the big bucks. They're not really going to ask how long does it take to replace a water pump on a Toyota Sienna. Now, I want you to tell me in the comment section down below what your experiences are with properly engineered parts, and subscribe for more videos.